Λοιπόν, καλησπέρα όλοι και όλες. Καλώς ορίσατε στο chat μου και αρχίσαμε. This was Greek. This was Greek, and I will tell you later why I started with Greek. I only said, welcome everybody, hello, and let's start. Thank you to, first of all, I want to thank Roberto for having these great ideas and somehow always making them happen. And a very good, big thanks to George, who stepped in my place last week. I had technical problems. And he broke the ice with this series of conferences, and he did it in a very inspiring and exquisite way. And he set, I guess, a very high standard. Therefore, I had to review a bit my talk today. Thank you, double thanks for George. And so I will start with portraits. I started photographing when I was very young. My father gave me his camera when I was 12, I think, and it was a Rolleiflex. So I was going around shooting things and taking pictures, and I had a dark room, so developing the pictures. And since the beginning, I started to really be interested in portraits. I liked a lot the faces of people and what the face can tell about someone and how the face is shaped by the life of someone. So for me, that was really my cup of tea. I really enjoy taking, this is really my cup of tea. I like taking portraits. And so I will start showing you some of my photographs. I have shared a video. So share this. And now, what if I do this? Okay. So I put some of my pictures, I put them all together in this idea of making a book. And of course, I like to call it Facebook. And not that I want to publish it, but it's a way of keeping the photos together. I move them around. I add new photos once in a while. I take away the old photos, and maybe one day, I don't know what happens. Anyway, I know they're all here. Most of my photos are in here, somehow safe, in good company. And okay, this is the cover. This is the cover on the right side, of course, of the book, and on the left side, it's the back cover of the book. This is the cover without the writings on. And this photo I've shot in New York. I was casting a face for a commercial job, and the casting was happening in my hotel room. And I don't have a flashlight. I never use a flashlight. I really hate flashlights. So I only had this spotlight coming from the ceiling of the hotel, this design hotels. And so I told the model, just sit under the light, under the spotlight. And I shot the photograph because I didn't have any other source of light. This is just to tell you that I really try to take my pictures with the conditions that I find, with the natural light, and almost all of them with a 50 millimeters, and always raw. This photo I shot in the temple of the Mevlana dervish in Konya, in Turkey. And that's a quotation from Rumi, the prophet, and it says, either seem as you are or be as you seem. And this, it's so true today, where I think everybody's trying to be someone else or to create a new fake identity of themselves. So I keep it there. I like to think about this phrase once in a while. And there we'll go now with some portraits. This is a writer. These are the two writers, Michael Cunningham and Colin Toybin. somehow, because of the story of my life, Ennio Morricone in his studio, I know lots of writers and artists, and I'm in this world of musicians. This is Ryuji Sakamoto. And so next to these pictures, I also, I photograph what I see, who I meet. Kapoor, Anish Kapoor. This is maybe one of the few portraits where I set the subject up. That was Nadim Aslam. He just won a book, the Booker Prize, I think. And so we were like having a party and in this country house, and we set up a bit this image in the pool. On the left side, she's a Turkish American writer, Hisham Attar, Pulitzer Prize. Elio Fiorucci, Isabella Rossellini. This is a Polaroid. I used to shoot. Unfortunately, I don't shoot anymore Polaroids, but Polaroid was really my favorite film. And on the left side, it's a portrait of another writer. She's Indian, and it's shot with what I call the proto Polaroid, which is a wet plate collodium photograph. And this technique, it's an ancient photographic technique, allows you to create a plate, expose it, develop it, and a direct positive image comes out all within, let's say, 5 minutes. So it's like a Polaroid, it's like a proto-Polaroid. The exposition time is quite long, it's about 12 seconds. Therefore, it's a bit shaky, but today I shoot lots of photographs with this technique. I like it quite a lot. She's a choreographer from Japan. He's a funny writer. He wrote Absurdistan, one of his first, I think, book. This is the same choreographer before, shot 20 years earlier. And now, I want to talk to you just very, very briefly about Paul Strand. Paul Strand was an American photographer in New York. And everybody knows about his portrait of the blind beggar in the streets of New York. And this woman has a label on her neck with written blind. And then you see one eye of this woman is completely dead, is completely opaque and gone, while the other eye is very sharp, looking at something. So the contrast between the blind, the label, and this very sharp eye creates an amazing portrait. And you can really sense somehow the life of this person. Hello. Okay, do you hear me?
Oh, pardon, pardon.
Now, Paul Jean Berger said about Paul Strand that his photographs are like the opposite of Cartier-Bresson. While Cartier-Bresson is everything about the moment, capturing that single instant of a life flow, Paul Strand, in his instant, in his moment, opens a window to the whole life flow of his subjects. It's like if he's encouraging a story to be told. You really can understand and see the life of this person. Okay, yeah. And so this photographs, sorry, I shot this on the right side. She's a poet, but she was very disturbed in this moment of her life. She's like has mental issues, and she came in the middle of the night, completely naked, under pouring rain, freezing cold winter, to our house, knocking at the door, and she was very disturbed. And my wife just gave her this cover to cover her, and I don't know why. And I shot this photograph very instinctively, and I'm really attached to this portrait. You really can grasp and smell the problems of this woman. And the same one on the left side. This is a tango dancer, and he was rehearsing a show behind the scenes of the theater, alone with no music, and he was like dancing, and it was so surrealistic that I had to photograph him, because he was, you know, without the woman and in the silence of the theater. That on the right side, it's a project from an art commission work, was called 1 + 1 = infinite. And the European community asked me, they were choosing one photographer every year to make a project, an artwork, and this would have been shown in a square in Paris. And me and my wife, we came out with this idea. My wife is mostly the brain of my work. We photographed mixed couples and their children, so all over Europe. And 1 + 1 = infinite means that one person from one country plus one person from another country, they really produce an infinity, an infinite possibility of beauty and of chances and whatever. So this guy, this boy, when I went to photograph him, he was very, very shy. He could not even look in my eyes. He didn't want to do this photograph. So after talking a bit and trying to break his shyness, I asked him, "What do you like?" And he said, "My horse." So I said, "Come on, let's go then. Let's go to your horse." And he didn't want to go. So we all jumped in the car. We drove to the stables. And then I was alone with him and the horse in the box. And after a while, I said, "Look at me now, please look at me." And he looked in the camera, and I shot this photograph. And then when we went back home, he was so happy. So I showed him the photograph. He was so relieved and happy that he did it. And this was a very good moment. On the left side, it's from my project, people from my town. I've been photographing people from my town. I live in a little country town in Tuscany. Still, again, 1 + 1 infinite. He's an artist, a photographer, Omar Victor Diop. That's my father. He was sick with Alzheimer's, telling me about his trips on the boat, but the boat was not his. He'd never been on a boat. People from my town. This is a peasant. He works the fields, but he has an amazing face. Baroness Beatrice von Rezzori on the left with her dog, and the peasant from our town on the right. They both belong to the same village. He's a musician. This is again a proto-Polaroid wet plate collodion. This is two brothers, brother and sister, and they were friends of friends, so they happened to pass by my house, and the faces are so antique. They really belong to the 18th century, so they really belong to this kind of photography. I find people from my town, again a wet plate collodion portrait. 1 + 1 = infinite. 1 + 1 = infinite. You see, I always use the light. She's a writer in her studio. Okay, now the first, let's say, chapter. Okay, now we have a more, it's a commercial, it's a backstage of a commercial project. So I tried to make it funny, a bit funny, to create a bit of a story out of it. Okay. This is another commissioned artwork. A gallery in London asked me to shoot this series of portraits, make like a workshop, and address to people who are in a social program to be reintroduced in society because of their backgrounds, because of their troubles. Some were illegal immigrants, some were drug addicted, some, you know, were illegally smuggled into the country. And now all these persons were in a program of the state to, you know, to better their lives. So my task was to take a portrait of each one of them, and on a wet plate, collodium plate, and then give them, everybody went home with his own photograph. So this is what came out from that experience. And again, it's a very slow technique. You have to make the plate, shoot the plate, develop it in the same moment, and the subject has to stay like 10 or 15 seconds in front of the camera. And this moment of stillness, of important moment where he's get his photograph shot, creates a very strong relationship with the photographer and with the subject itself. He is really participating to something. Therefore, all these people, they came really aware that they would have their portrait shot, and they came dressed with dresses, and they came with hair styled. And now these two, they don't belong to the social program. She's on the right side, she's the curator of the gallery, and on the left side, an artist who was there wandering around the gallery. But you see, like, they really went for it. They really came in the studio willing to participate. And this is also an important thing in portraiture, I think. The subject has to contribute somehow. The blackamoors. Another commissioned art project. I was lucky enough till now that some institutions still commission artists to do a project. And this was Resinifications. It's, they call the 100 artists from all over the world to somehow re-significate the figure of Black people in art world. All this started because of the statues, the blackamoors, the statues that of slaves, they were very fashionable in the 1800s in Venice, in Florence, in Rome. So the only condition was that this blackamoors they were the spark that initiated the whole artwork. So I started photographing the blackamoors, and I started making pictures of the blackamoors, and I wanted them to come back to life somehow, these statues from the 18th century. So I put them in a black contest. I didn't want to show where they were standing, where they were living. So I created all this black around them, and somehow I give them like a new life. And then I went in the streets of Italy, and I found the new slaves of our society, poor immigrants who live in a slavery condition, and I took a portrait of them in the same way of the blackamoors, and I tried to find the same features, the same faces, like the lookalikes a bit, and I put them together in this dialogue where the slaves of the 17th, 18th century are unfortunately the same slaves of the 2000. So this was the sense of this work, of this project. And lucky enough, I found some faces which were really identical to the statue, made some centuries before. Renaissance portraits of friends and people, inspired on the beauty of the Renaissance portraits. Okay, I think we can stop here or not. What do you think? Stop sharing. Or you want to go on another 2 minutes? What time is it?
3 o'clock.
It's 3 o'clock.
Sure.
Should I go another 2 minutes, or we go with the chatting?
It's up to you.
Let's have a look at a few more photos.
Okay. Then I go back to this. I can't see my photos anymore. Maybe okay, wait a minute. My computer. I'm not very good in mastering technology, as you can see. Okay. Some beauty, commercial stuff, models and so on. But faces. This is Riccardo Cavallari, another artist, very good photographer. We something, I can't remember her name now. I will tell you, or you can see it, and she's worth looking at because she's an amazing photographer. I like this picture. I shot it in India, in the slum, only because of the contrast of the two faces of the boy and of the father. They're quite strong, quite nice. Okay, we'll stop here at the bar scene. Well, it wasn't 2 minutes. It was good. Now, if you want, just before we start talking, I can show you what I'm doing in these days of lockdown, which I somehow thank, because it gave me the strength to start taking a new photos again from my series Homage to Morandi. Giorgio Morandi, he was always home. He didn't want to go out. He only wanted to paint his bottles. So he would have loved the situation of the lockdown. And this is why I started again. These are the plates. These are the wet plate collodium. So they come out in this kind of, if you do a plate, it comes out like this. So the proto-Polaroid, you see? And this is my work, Homage to Morandi, the second edition, which I'm doing now in these days of lockdown. And I'm
Tell us something about the technical side of this.
sure. Absolutely. What? What's the question?
Can you
Whatever you
show
know.
us your camera?
I have to say something about him. No, I didn't get the question. Sorry.
Can you show us your camera that you use to make collodium?
Not, I cannot show you because I'm not home. Because home, I don't have a fast enough connection. So now I am at the house of friends, neighbors. I live in the middle of a forest, so I could come here without touching the streets.
So you didn't break the rules, did you?
No, no. My friends are not here. They are in New York now. So I'm alone. And I don't have my camera. But the camera is not important. Any camera, you need a view camera, of course. You need, because the camera decides the format. I mean, if you want to make a big plate, you need a big camera. You need a big chassis where you put your plate in. If you want to make a small plate, you can use a Hasselblad even. You know, I have my Polaroid back from my Hasselblad. I modified it so I can put a plate in there. It has to be a 6x6 centimeters plate, and I can make a wet plate collodium. It's only 6x6. I cannot do a big one. If I want to do a big one, this is a 20x25. Of course, I need a big camera. Any camera. I mean, I have a Cena, and I have an old camera from it's a Fatif from the 1950s, wooden camera. And then I have another camera. I can't remember the name, the who made it, but so whatever, you know, you just need a back that fits the plates, and that you have to somehow self-build it according to what kind of plates you use, what the format of your plates. That's it.
Well, I'm trying to Ostra, non mi ricordo più come si dice imparare. How to say imparare?
Learn.
Learn. I'm trying to learn camera oscura, and I'm using a wooden camera from a 1927, a German one.
Oh, nice.
And I use paper. I make a negative, and then I photograph another time the negative, and I develop for to positive to have the photo. And I made six photos till now. What that successful photo, more or less.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to understand the procediment of a collodium. So.
Okay.
How do you do it?
It's very easy. It's very easy. I got to go very fast because you can go in technical specifics, but nobody cares. But basically, you have a plate which can be glass or it can be thin metal. This is thin. They were doing it in the 1800s. The thin type, this is a thin type, technically calling. It's a collodium thin type because it's made on tin, or you can make it on a glass and it's called ambrotype. If you make it on a glass, it's going to be transparent, of course. So it's going to be a negative. And then you can duplicate it. This was the first photographic technique that allowed photographers to duplicate their own pictures, till that moment, it wasn't possible. If you paint the glass behind black, then you will have a positive. This is only a thin plate coated with a black. It has a black. Let's see there. You can see it better here. Yeah, you see, it's black. It's not this color, but it's this color. It's like when you have a negative which is underexposed. If you have a negative a little bit underexposed, and you look at it on a black, behind the black, in front of a black, I mean, you have a black something behind the negative, you will see it positive. So you make your collodium. Collodium is a liquid, a bit sticky. You put salts in this collodium, cadmium bromide and ammonium bromide. The recipe is all over the place, easy to find the salts. Mix them well together. And then you put this stuff, you put it on the plate, you pour it on your plate, and you create this thin film of collodium on your plate. You stick it in your camera. Well, first you sensitize it. You have to dip it into silver nitrate, our magical ingredient. And the silver nitrate activates the salts. And then you put the whole plate in your camera, you expose it, and then you develop it. You just pour a little bit of developer stuff, which is iron, ferro sulfoso, sulfato di ferro. I don't know in English what's it called. Well, I don't know. And that's it. And it comes out immediately. So what lens do you have on your box?
I've got 125.
But how wide, how open is it? What's the?
I don't remember. What? Here it is.
Okay, nice, beautiful.
That's my camera.
Nice, beautiful.
It's can open till 4 past 5.
Okay, it's quite bright.
Yeah.
Bright. There's lots of, because you know this technique is very slow. It has only one ISO, only one. So if you have a lens which is quite close.
Well, I take one photos that I succeed to do it. It's not a very good one, but it works.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
This is the negative.
Nice.
And this is the positive. Here it's quite bright. I have to manage. And if I don't remember, well, I wrote the time of exposure. For the negative, I exposed the image because I made it in an interior, 13 seconds.
Okay, yeah, because the paper negatives are also very slow.
Yeah.
It's the same way, maybe with collodium, you will have the same kind of exposure.
And to positive, 26 seconds.
Okay, good. You are in the range. You are in the range of collodium photography, so you can do it. You have the patient. You have patient enough. You know?
Yeah. And I want to use it with people.
Absolutely. I've shot many portraits. You saw them. Of course, I put them in a chair. You cannot stand to take a collodium portrait, or you can stand, and then I put something in their heads so that the head is resting on something, and therefore they can be a bit more like.
Yeah, I saw what once they used for make portraits. this type of things that seems like a torture.
Yeah, sure,
Because they
sure.
need people to stay
Yeah, it's a
quiet.
head rest. You can rest your head there, and you don't move too much. Yeah, because 8 seconds, it's a lot. 8, 10, 12 seconds, it's quite a lot. You know, it's a long time to sit in front of a camera. You will move, of course.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to tell two things about this procedure. It's important because the etere is not good for health. It's important to preserve your lung because in this period, soprattutto after all, yeah. But
You
yeah,
know what?
I see. I have a friend that use Ambrotype, and he work in my dark room, and I have a black spot everywhere.
Yeah.
But the leather is very, very dangerous for the health. Be
Okay,
careful.
thank you.
Be careful.
Thank you.
Only this.
Yeah, this is silver nitrate.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah, the silver nitrate. Of course, people do it with gloves. I do it with gloves too, but even with gloves, sometimes I take my glove away because I'm, and forget about the gloves, and then I get this.
Yes, but the nitrate is not dangerous. It's the ether, because you breathe in, and it's one of the most cancerous substance in the world. Only this.
Okay, thank you. I will be careful from now on. I was, it was quite nice. Once in a while,
I know it smell, but it's a good smell, but it's not good for the health.
Okay.
No, the people don't know, and because I say this, because the people don't know the dangers of the ether, because it's invisible, it's smell, it's but if you write on the web ether, you want to learn the dangers of this substance.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask you different questions? And in your experience, how much is important to have worked in different places, cultures, as the United States, England, respect to work only in Italy, especially for portraits?
I don't think that makes the difference. I think what really makes the difference, and this is what I also always told my students. I had also a time in my life where I was teaching photography. It's, first of all, you have to really be curious about art and photography, and watch and look and see what others do, and why those photos are nice, why I like this kind of photography, why I like this kind of art, why I like, but most of all, it's to take lots of pictures. Just do it. I think that the only secret, the only ingredient of any kind of form of art is really to be dedicated to it and do it. Just produce. Go out, take pictures. Don't be shy. Take portraits. You like a subject, shoot a portrait, make a photograph. Go on. Just don't. You have to cultivate your it's like something that has to grow, your creativity, your will, your ideas. They have to grow. They need food, and the only food of the creativity is being creative, producing, making, taking pictures, experimenting, being active with with the hands, you know, with the eyes, with the hand. So, of course, if you are, I mean, I was quite lucky because I was born in a mixed family. We always were speaking a different language. I grew up in Italy, and I never felt really Italian. I never really felt American. I married a German the first time, then I married a half Romanian, half Sudanese the second time. I mean, so of course, being so spread out, it stimulates maybe, I don't know, maybe not, but maybe it stimulates a bit seeing different things, you know, experiencing different, even talking another language, talking a different language makes your brain think in a different way. So also that is something, you know, that's worth working on. And this is why I've started speaking Greek to you. Now I can explain why. Because I like languages. I study languages. I like to speak a language in a place where I am. And in this time of my life, I'm studying Greek. I've been studying it for 1 year. And my goal is to become fluent in 2 years. So I have another year to become really fluent. And what makes you learn a language is you have to be in that language every day. You have to be somehow obsessed about that language. You have to listen to that language. You don't have to study grammar. It's completely useless. You have to absorb that language. So I write notes. I write them in Greek. You know, I try to talk to myself in Greek. I tell myself, Kalimera, you know, Stiachno mia cafe, una cafe. I try to make this language active in my life as if I was a little child who is learning a language, and he doesn't study. You know, children don't study the language. They absorb it from their environment, from the mother. And this is how they learn it. So if you know, English, you want to learn or improve your English, it's enough to every day be a bit absorbing that language, you know? So like half an hour a day, watch movies, watch them in English. You don't understand, put the subtitles, but English. Radio, listen to English radios, you know. And this is the way. This is the way to really improve your skills in a language. So since we are talking about also, you know, this is also an excuse for everybody to improve English. I thought it was a good tip to give. You know what a tip is? A tip, you know, a good tip for everybody.
Hi, Riccardo. There is one more question from my side. I believe you do a certain amount of personal projects and others based on assignments coming from agencies. Is that the case for you as well? And for your personal project, where do you find inspiration? I mean, reading books, songs, from where?
Well, then I do commercial work for living, and the commissions comes from whoever, companies, advertising agencies, and but they you know, whoever has some money for whatever kind of photograph, I'm willing to do it, you know. My personal projects, I don't know where the inspiration comes, but definitely I have ideas. There's a friend of mine who's a colleague. He's a good photographer, and together we decided to understand the wet plate process 5 or 6 years ago. And we like, hello?
Ah.
Okay. And we joke, we have this joke because we have so many projects together that we want to do, and we just never do them because we don't have time, or we don't have the chance, you know, to start it or whatever. So I have I don't know, I just have the wish of doing that kind of project, like in this case, the Morandi. The Morandi was an assignment that I gave to my students, I think 10 years ago in one classroom. I told them it was a still life classroom, and every student had to build a portfolio. And I told them, you know, just look at the world and see what a still life is, you know, so maybe you get an inspiration, you get an idea. For instance, Morandi, some of you could do an homage to Morandi. And then other ideas I had, I couldn't remember, but nobody did it. And this idea of Morandi was always in my back of the mind. And it was like, one day I will start doing it, you know. My students didn't do it. I'm going to start one day. And this is how, then I said, okay, now I do it. Now I start, you know, now it's that moment. I am closed in the house. I don't have anything to do. I mean, I have lots of things to do, but this is the chance. So, yeah, I have another project, which is photographing hands of writers, because I know many writers, and their hands, I find them quite important because they write with their hands. So the hand is the thing that creates the book, the mind, of course, but physically it's the hand that does. I did maybe 5 or 6 writers, and then the project is there. One day I will maybe do it, you know. If you go on and you just do it, just start doing, and then the ideas come, they arise by themselves.
Somebody wrote a question in the chat. Do you have a model release for every portrait?
No. I don't.
It's quite simple.
I'm not the only one, I guess. I never ask them to sign I really don't like the idea to ask them to formalize somehow this. Yeah, I don't do it. And of course, if I have to publish them, it happened that for instance, the magazine asked me, do you have a portrait of this and that writer? And I had it. Of course, I write them an email and I say, look, this magazine is asking me your portrait because they're writing a piece on you. And of course, everybody says, yeah, sure. My portraits are decent. They're not embarrassing anyone, I hope, I think. And so most of them are just willing to have it published in the case.
Basta domande? Andiamo a giocare?
Oh, just a moment. Another question. For me, I like portrait, but I'm shy, and it's difficult to me to relationship with the subject because I prefer take a shot when the subject don't see me, don't have, and this is the difficult for me, create a relationship. I take a portrait, I think beautiful, but when the subject don't see me, you have some tip?
Me too. I'm shy. I don't like to set up my portraits. I like my subject just, I never tell them what to do. I just, I don't tell them do this, do that, act this, turn left, turn right, sit, stand. No, I don't, mostly I don't interact. I'm a silent photographer most of the times. I do ask them, can I take a picture of you? Of course, and sit there or stand there, go close to the light, because normally I only use natural light. So maybe it's next to the window, or let's go outside. But yes, you have to overcome a bit your shyness and just, think that you're doing something great for them and for you. And it's an important thing. It's not just a portrait. It's not just a photograph. It's not done like with the phone. It's a moment where art is being created. Now, this is a big expression, but let's think it big, Let's think big. So even if you're shy, it doesn't matter. I mean, you don't have to jump to make them smile or whatever, I think, yeah. Now everybody has his own way, his own approach, of course. So it's not one way to take a portrait. It doesn't exist. Everybody does it how he wants to do it. And but it's, yeah, just do it.
Can I say something? Can I?
Absolutely, yes.
It's not, I'm not asking something, but I want to thank you particularly for your work, but especially for things, because you make me feel some reflection about my work, because normally I introduce myself saying I am a stage photographer, and every time I feel myself very little. But I think this is the not correct things, because when we take photo because life is on the stage in front of us. All is a stage. When you make a photo, you are thinking about what you are in your mind, and it's a stage, and so you stop the actor, the people, and also because in your work it's not exactly only portrait, because the people who you with your in your eyes was on the stage, and all is portrait. All is in your mind is a connection with other people, with other artists, or someone you meet in the street. So this is very important for me to understand that it's not very easy put how can I say definition the definition of our work. It's not like a box. You are when you introduce your work, you said portrait, but it's not only portrait, it's life. It's what you decide to on what you decide to put focus on the things you choose in your work. So this is important for me, and also I would like to express my frustration, it's my personal frustration, because stage is like beautiful life, and you say that you like photograph without special light. This is normal what I have to do, because I start to photograph the life that born in every opera, every in every story. My telling start when start the connection between people on the stage, and there are no lights, there are no opportunity to decide what you have to photograph, and the work is try to stay in the line between the director, the actor, the music director. All is a very complicated box, and it's like stay in the street, try to connect with the, I think, very important, very specific to tell the story. You have a responsibility to tell the story. So today, maybe for the first time, saying your work, I feel myself less frustrated, because portrait is not only in in a studio. Portrait is in every place you start a connection, and for this question, the first meeting we had for photography, Taj said that for him was very important leave people to be in his natural condition. And after Fabrizia, said that it was necessary to have connection with people. And now you was telling something different, to stay far. It's correct, or I didn't understand?
No, I'm not far. Actually, I'm very close to my subjects.
Okay.
I just don't direct them. I don't tell them what to do. I don't, for instance, Annie Leibovitz is a photographer whom I don't particularly understand, because, she did some amazingly beautiful work in her personal photography, but as a photographer, the photographs that we see of her, they are very staged, very set up. Everything is meant, thought, created, set up, flash, photographed. This is something that I'm not there. I'm on the other side of this kind of portraiture, but I'm definitely close to my subjects. I talk with them. I try to, most of all of them I have a relationship with. And if I don't have a relationship, I try to create it before even the photo. The picture is a moment of something that we are building, that is not only the photograph. It's not only, meant to become a photograph. Some of the subjects that you saw, especially writers, some of them we became friends. Hisham Mattar, who I've met on the set. Now we're writing letters to each other, and he calls me Habibi, brother. We are very, very. His wife is a photographer. You have to check her out, Diana Mattar. I'm trying to convince her to come and talk to us. Let's see if she can. But so, the relationship is the first thing, I guess.
Grazie tantissimo. Abbiamo sforato e stiamo sforando. Riccardo, grazie di cuore.
Grazie a te, grazie a voi.
Apro i microfoni di tutti.
Thank you, Riccardo.
Grazie.
Thank you very much, Riccardo.
Ciao, ciao Riccardo. Grazie. Ciao Roberto.
Grazie.
Chiedere una cosa.
Ciao Riccardo,
Scusate.
sì, è vero.
Riccardo, io ti volevo ringraziare e fare i complimenti perché secondo me le tue foto dei ritratti tu sei proprio dentro, sei insieme alla persona e dalle foto si vede questo.
Grazie Ada, piacere di rivederti.
E complimenti a Riccardo, così.
Grazie molto.